operation. So I'm going to go ahead and say hi to everyone in the chat, mute myself, turn off my camera, and Nicholas, you can take it away.
Great. Thanks everybody for joining. As Katie said, today we are going to be working through just some basic day-to-day operations, so you know what you're going to be doing in Firefly when you first log in for the day, when you get into the park in the morning. How to see and view and manage your reservations once they're already in your system, as well as some miscellaneous tasks like emailing, making group blocks, utilizing the POS register, viewing your guests, and things like that here and there. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to try to, in the beginning here, set up a reservation and kind of flow through the process as, how you all would probably do it when you're, if you're making an internal reservation and things like that, to try to kind of get an idea of how the flow and process would happen, in real time while using Firefly. So, as you all know, Firefly is a web-based platform. So to log in, whenever you pull up app.fireflyreservations.com, whether you have it bookmarked, which we recommend every browser you can bookmark a website. For myself, I'm using Google Chrome, so I am just able to click this little star button here and bookmark it. What I also like to recommend to people is a lot of people like to have a more typical icon on either their desktop or their little taskbar at the bottom of their computer. That can also be done straight from a web browser. Most web browsers have a little options drop down. Depending on what browser you use, it might be in a different spot. But for example, like Google Chrome, under More Tools here, you can create a shortcut that will actually add a pin directly to your browser or to your desktop. And that will allow you to just open up your computer, click that pin on your desktop, and that will then automatically open up Firefly in whichever browser you create the shortcut from. So just two little tricks there that could be helpful to get into Firefly easily. The first thing we'll look at is just some information that you can see on the dashboard. Again, like I said, the first thing when you do log into Firefly, you'll see is the dashboard. Here you'll just see a few different statistics like occupancy, payments, other things like that. And then what's really helpful is as you scroll down, you'll see some boxes that generate some data in them. The two most helpful ones here are probably going to be your upcoming arrivals and upcoming departures little pop-up box. As you can see here, I have a few upcoming arrivals. These will populate with names and reservations within 2 days of either them arriving or departing. People that are arriving, either today or tomorrow, it'll be in order based off the day that they're arriving. So that's always helpful. All these reservations or payments that pop up in these boxes are interactive. So, say Mr. Weston M here, if I want to view his reservation to make sure that, everything's paid for, maybe I need to send him an email, or maybe I want to make sure he signed his policies, I can click on this reservation straight from this box here, and that's going to open that up. And then, I'm able to go back just by clicking my back arrow or things like that. Recent payment activity is also here to show, if your recent payments that you've taken are paid. If a payment fails, if you have, maybe automated payments that are happening, here is where you can get a quick view to make sure that, all your payments did successfully go through and none of them failed. And again, if one did fail and you see that here on this list, you can just click right into it, see why it failed, and then possibly rerun the transaction. Same thing with upcoming recurring charges as well as overdue charges. Don't mind my incredibly long list of overdue charges. The next thing that we'll look at, considering arrivals and departures while we're on that topic, just a few other places where you can see upcoming arrivals or departures in a list form or a report form. The first place that you can do this, and in general just view your reservations that you already have in your system, is going to be in your search reservation function. So whether you click either of these buttons from the quick links or your hot buttons at the top of your screen, you can also click on reservations and search reservations. This will pull up a list of all of your reservations in some sort of filtered criteria. By default, it's going to be filtered by, as you can see here, the most recently created. So whether there's reservations coming in online or you are making reservations in-house, the ones that go into your system, the earliest will go into the list at the top here. So I just created this reservation yesterday, so this is what is going to be at the top of my list. This list can also be filtered by arrival. If you want to get a list of all of your arrivals maybe today, you can just set that as today, search that, and I don't have anybody arriving today, so let's do tomorrow. Because I do have some reservations for tomorrow, and I search that. Here you can see you'll get a list of your arrivals like this. You can, again, click straight in on these reservations here, and that will lead you into the reservation management screen, which we'll get to in more detail later. The next place, and this next spot is the most helpful if you all are looking for a printable list that you can, maybe have in your office to, mark up or highlight. Some parks do like to have a printable list of their arrivals and departures. That's going to be most useful under reports here. So if you click on your reports module, this is going to open up all of Firefly's reporting. Right now, we're just going to focus in on the reservations reports here. So as you can see, there's both an arrivals and departures report. So if I click on my arrivals report, I can select my date range, whether it be for just today, whether it be for this week. Maybe I want to see all my arrivals that are coming this week. I'll apply that and I can run it. And as you can see here, this is a list of all my arrivals. One thing to note on this report that's helpful is it actually shows if that reservation has any balance due. So this is a good way to check, for your arrivals that are coming, if they still owe you any money. And again, even from these reports, you can click in straight to these reservations and open the reservation up and maybe go take that payment that they still owe. These reports, again, can also be printed, downloaded as PDFs, CSVs, or Excels as well if you do want a printable list of reservations that are arriving. And that goes with any of our reports. They can be printed, downloaded in any fashion too. So going back to our dashboard, what we'll look at now is we'll look at our first step in how to make an in-house reservation. As you all know, there's really two methods of how reservations can come into your system. If any of you utilize online reservations, that'll be the first one. The second way is for any of the in-house reservations that are being made, whether the people calling in over the phone, whether they're your long-term reservations, whether they're people that are walking in. Firefly does allow you just to add in a reservation through your backend system. So to do that, there's a few different, again, buttons that will navigate you to the same place. The first being any of these icons with the calendar and a plus symbol, or if you go to reservations here on your left-hand menu and click new reservation, that's going to open up your new reservation form. From here, you can choose your reservation type. One thing I love to point out to folks is if you do set any restrictions on your units, especially to restrict certain types of online bookings, you're allowed to override any restrictions that you set in your unit setup when you make an internal reservation. Again, because you have control, Firefly gives you the ability to do that override for any restrictions that you are setting to kind of limit reservations when you don't have control from the online portal. So, if I did want to, override my maximum night rule and make a longer term reservation for somebody, because maybe I'm giving them an exception, I'd be able to click that. And, when I do the reservation search, it's going to ignore that maximum night rule that I might have set up, which I imagine you'll probably looked at in the unit setups session this week. Then you'll choose your arrival and departure if a standard reservation. So we'll just make a reservation for this upcoming weekend. You'll set your occupancy here, and then again, based off of any rates that you have set up with additional charges, that'll use that. Choose your unit type. If you have different unit types, you can select between your unit types. If it's an RV site, it'll ask you some of the required questions that you set up in your property settings. And then if you want to get more specific with your search, you can search based off of your unit classes. So say I only want to give this person a standard RV site. I can just search up all my standard RV sites. Then search availability. Depending on how you have it set up, you might, your default view might be this list view. As you can see here, all my sites that are available will come up first. Anything that is, red is not available. Or if you prefer a map view, you can just click straight into your map view. Firefly now lets you do multi-map capabilities. So if you have multiple maps at your park that you want to kind of zoom in on different areas, you're allowed to add and upload multiple maps and connect them all to your unit. So as you can see here, here's my map. It's a little funky. It doesn't actually reflect a real park. So, this isn't what your map will look like. But from here, my green sites here are the ones that are available. If I click in on one, it's going to let me then click book, and that's going to add it down into my cart right down below here. The next thing, or in your list view, you also, to add a unit, you can just click on it and it will then also add it into your cart as well. One thing that I like to point out also from your list view is right here, the little green, this number is the total for that reservation. If you have different rates, that you have active throughout, different periods of time, maybe you're making a reservation for, a holiday period, or that, will mix and match some of your rates, or maybe you just want to check to make sure some of your rates are correct. You can always come in here, create a reservation, hover over this total here, and it'll actually give you a breakdown of the actual rate that it's using to calculate that total of 120. So as you can see here, my 2023 rate for $60 a day, adding up to 120, is being used for the entirety of the reservation. Once you have a unit selected, again, it's going to put it in the cart. Ignore my security deposit here. This is just a required add-on that I have set up. So we won't really make a big deal about that right now. If you do have your reservation fee set up to be passed along, that will show up here as well. You'll have your total, your taxes, your subtotal taxes and total show up. And then the next thing you'll need to do is come in and select a guest. If you have a guest that has never stayed with you before, you can just create a new guest profile for them by entering in any or all the information you want. Or most helpful, and for you folks migrating over from Astra, most of your historic guests will be in Firefly already from Astra. So more likely than not, some guests will have stayed with you before and they will have guest profiles already made. So all you need to do is type in a guest name. If I just type in my name, my various guest profiles will show up. And then I can choose, if you do have multiple people with the same name, you can just use a phone number, or you can just choose from the list and select, and then that guest will be associated as the main guest to this reservation. Then, if you all utilize any add-ons, which again are additional items or maybe fees that you all want to be able to add on to a reservation at the time of creation, this is where you can do that. Select any add-ons. Maybe you're gonna, maybe they want to pre-purchase some firewood bundles, or maybe you have a resort fee, or any other kind of, maybe a pet fee for a pet that they're coming with. Things like that. Add-ons can be added directly from reservation creation. And then lastly, just some optional information that you can fill out if you want. If you have any discounts that you offer, they'll show up here to select. And then Firefly by default will have, send reservation confirmation checked off. If you don't want to send them a confirmation email, you can uncheck it. But if you do, then you'll just leave it checked, and then you can hit create reservation, and that will create that in-house reservation for you. So once you do create the reservation, more likely than not, we imagine that your next step is going to be to take some form of payment, whether you're collecting 100% of that, that amount that is due, whether you're collecting a certain amount of deposit, one night, 50%, you can then go and take payment right away after you make the reservation. So to do that, once you make the reservation, as you noticed, Firefly will open up that specific reservation page. From here, using my tabs that are listed out up top here, I can go ahead and click on charges. Now, when you do click charges, as you can see, you're going to get your payments, balance due, and any overdue amount. And then if you scroll down under charges here, you're going to get your list of charges. And just for the sake of making this a little easier, I'm going to delete this security deposit because we don't need to use it at this point for this example. And then, yeah, you can see your list of charges, your actual unit charge, and then the reservation fee will be listed out as a separate, charge instance, within Firefly. So $123.50 is my total balance due. Now, a few different, ways you might be taking payment. If they, if you're over the phone, and you do want to collect some form of payment, when they're still on the phone with you, at that point, you're able to key in and collect their credit card information. So to do that, before you take any payment, you'll have to add that credit card on file using, adding the payment method. So in your charges tab under your reservation, there's going to be a little add payment method button. When you click on Add Payment Method, if and only when you are connected to a payment processor, can you enter in a credit card and or bank account, depending on which processor you set up with. So if you can, what you'll do is, you'll show up here, you'll enter in their credit card. And once you do that, you'll save it. And then that credit card will be saved on file. And then you can just click back to reservation. That will then lead you back to the reservation. As you can see, that credit card is now stored on file here. And, just as a token, only the 4 digits and expiration. So you can't actually ever see the actual full credit card number after you enter it. Then when you're ready to take payment, what you can do is just hit new payment. This is probably the easiest way to take a new payment, is just utilize this new payment button here. From here, you can select off any or all the charges that you want to pay. So, if I'm just going to pay for this entire reservation here, I can select both of these, or I could just hit select all. And then I can click collect payment now. And then I'll choose payment method. Here, I'm going to choose my credit or debit card. And then I'm going to use my card on file. And then I have the option to not send them a payment receipt notification. I'm going to send them one, and then I can add any notes to this transaction as well. If I'm all ready, once I hit save, that's going to then initiate the processor to charge the card. Once I hit save, you'll see everything will update to paid. It will list out the amount, the date, as well as the card that was used, and the totals as well. And then these numbers up here will also reflect, updating what you paid. Now, as you may have noticed, if somebody maybe is, walking, is in person with you, maybe they're a walk-up reservation, or, at any point, somebody wants to pay cash or a different payment method than credit or debit card, Firefly can still record and track, any form of payment method that you want to make sure that you're utilizing the reporting correctly. So if someone does pay you cash, all you would do is collect that cash, come into Firefly and record that cash payment, and just choose your payment method as cash. Same thing with check, or maybe you have some other custom payment methods that you do accept. Firefly does let you customize some different payment methods, for yourselves to utilize. Once you do have a credit card on file, also one thing I'll point out is you can schedule a payment. So say you are collecting, say you do make an in-house reservation, and maybe you only collect 50% of it at the time that you create it. And then you can even go one step further, and while you're already dealing with that reservation, you can go ahead and schedule out a payment maybe for, the day they arrive. So, that will just automatically process their credit card, on the day they arrive, or you can set it, again, it's a date picker, so you can set it for any day if you do want to charge their card automatically for a, different time period when, you want maybe their card to be charged. So if we move out of that, we can then look at, Firefly while we're in the charges tab here. Firefly does let you create one-off charges at any point. If you do need to charge a guest, maybe they make damages, or, maybe they owe you something. Firefly simply just lets you create a new charge by hitting new charge here. And you can then label what the charge is for. If it's a miscellaneous charge or fee that, you don't usually charge, you can go other and then enter in your description. Maybe they damage, the picnic table or something, and you want to charge them. Maybe you're going to charge them $35. You can always, again, create one-off charges, save and add payment, and then charge their card if they have it on file, collect cash, check, or whatever. Awesome. So next thing we'll look at, we'll kind of, again, this kind of process showed how your flow might look like if you do take an in-house reservation, creating the reservation, and then taking payment right away by collecting a credit card, or using, just the recording of cash, check, or whatever form of payment you might use. So now we're going to kind of switch gears and just look at some other functions, that you have on reservations. The first being just some manipulation of reservations that you can do. So if we come into a reservation through the various ways that you might be able to find a reservation, at any point when you do open up a reservation, you'll be shown the units tab here of that reservation management screen. From here, you can see information like the actual unit, the arrival departure, if they're checked in or not, their occupancy, their total. One thing also cool about this is if you click on the total here on this page, it will also pop up the rate calculation for you. So if you do have somebody, coming in and asking why why this is their total, you can always click on, again, right here, this total, and it'll give you a breakdown of the rates. Again, this is helpful if you do have multiple rates that Firefly might be pulling for a certain time period, whether it be, maybe it's pulling 2 days of a holiday rate, 2 days of a regular rate, and, 2 days of another rate. You are able to see that complete breakdown here. The other thing that you can do from this units tab is actions within this options drop down here for this unit. If I click options here, this is one of the places where you have the ability to check somebody in, change the stay dates. You can move them to a new unit. You can update occupant, RV and vehicle information. You can add to a group hold, and you can add a rate qualifier. Adding a rate qualifier is helpful from here in the instance that maybe somebody does make a reservation and they come in and check in, and maybe they're actually maybe a veteran, or maybe they are a Good Sam. You can add a rate qualifier and retroactively give them that discount, and then you can provide them the necessary refund if that's something you're going to do to make sure that then they're getting that discounted rate. After the units tab, you're going to have an add-ons tab. This add-ons tab just, again, lets you add any items that you might have created as add-ons to a reservation. Again, once I add this add-on to a reservation, it'll be added to the charges list based off of the actual price that you're setting for that add-on. The next tab is going to be your guest tab. This is helpful in a few different ways. I would say the most helpful thing in this spot is going to be your email guest. This is going to be how you individually email a guest if you need to send out any communication to them. If you also utilize the SMS texting, this is where you can also, you're able to send text messages from as well. So to do that, all you do will, again, is come to your guest tab here under the reservation, come in and click email guests, and that'll open up Firefly's emailer. It'll populate with their email on file. If you have any custom templates created, you're able just to choose from a custom template, or you can craft your own message, individually. Maybe you just need to send them a one-off communication. Then you can easily just type in a message, send the email their way, and that's all. Other things you can do here, you can edit the guest profile directly, change the main guest. You can add other guests. Say you do want to keep track of, maybe names of their children. You're able to list, you can list out the names of, children or other adults as well. And you can update, any other info that you might be having. And while we're here, we'll look at generating an invoice. So generating an invoice, is useful if you want to send a one-off, if you want to be able to print something for somebody that gives them a breakdown of all their payments and charges at the end of their stay. If you all want to print something to keep on your record about somebody's stay and, what they paid, this is where you'll utilize Firefly's invoices for the reservations. The first thing you'll do is you'll generate the invoice. And then from here, you will choose the charges to include. More likely than not, you're going to select all the charges, so you can just select all here. You can add any notes that you want to the invoice. And then you have some options here. I recommend, showing individual payments will actually show, what payment method they used to pay, what amount they used to pay, if it was, partial paid at different times. And then if you want to actually show, what unit and the dates that their reservation was for on the invoice, you can show the reservation unit info. And then if I just click view, that's going to open up the invoice for me. It's going to include my logo, my campground's name, the guest name, the guest's reservation information, what rate they got, the dates, what site. And then, as you can see, it's going to give me a breakdown of all the charges. And then again, showing the exact payments will give you this line here. That's going to show, when they actually paid this, with what method, if you have any processing fees, and then it's going to give you a breakdown of if they have any total anything due as well. These then obviously can be downloaded, printed, directly emailed to a guest straight from this screen as well. Moving on along our tabs here, the policies tab, this is going to let you see if a guest has signed their policies. Just again, one of the spots where you can do that. If a guest hasn't signed their policies, you can always email their policies to them, again, for them to log into the guest portal and sign. Notes are going to be just an internal place to record anything on a reservation you want. This isn't guest facing, so if you have something bad to say about a reservation, that you want to keep track of, this is where you put it, and you can add a note. Again, this is just attached to the reservation. If you want to actually add a note to the guest profile, that is where you'd be able to come into guests, click edit guests, and then under the notes section under the guest is where you can write notes that are going to stick with this guest profile, not just the reservation. Notifications is useful to see a list of all the emails that were sent out to somebody throughout. If you utilize Firefly's automated templates, this is where you can see a list of those emails that were sent out. One cool thing that I like to point out here is if you hover and just click on the email in this list, it's actually going to pull up the exact copy that was sent. So if you ever want to see what your emails look like that are being sent out, this is a good way to do it. Make a test reservation, send some test emails, things like that. You can go in and click on them, and this is kind of what one of those emails would look like, with all those placeholders filled out. You can see if it was failed, if it delivered, and then you can resend any email as well by clicking resend. Lastly, you have the history tab. This is nice if you want to be able to track down a certain action or event on a reservation, because this will record every single thing that you do on a reservation, whether it be a small date change, a price update, you do a payment, you make a new charge, anything you do, it'll be recorded here under the event log. Awesome. So next, what we'll do, and again, this kind of means just showing every action that you can do, what power you have when you actually are in, the more detailed reservation management page. What we'll do now is we'll transition quickly to our grid and just show a few basic, grid functions that can be done as well, and how you can build on what we saw here, and some of these things correlate to what you're able to do in the grid as well. So if I'm on my dashboard here, what I'm able to do is, again, various ways that you can get to the grid, whether it be your quick links, your hot button up here, or under reservations, the reservation grid. From here, your grid will pop up. One thing to point out is just your rows here relate to which unit. So, this row is my unit number 2. And then the columns here are the dates. So this little yellow line throughout my grid is today's date on all of my units. The first thing to note about the grid is you can also make a reservation directly from the grid if you prefer and are kind of more of a grid user and like to do it that way. This is good for your more short-term reservations. If you have a lot of reservations and you just want to be able to look at your grid and, okay, there's a space there, let me put you there. That's kind of what the grid is useful for, to make reservations. So all you need to do is you'll find the row that correlates with the unit that you want to make that reservation from, and you'll correlate those dates and say, again, it's for this weekend, and I want to put them on this site number 3. All I need to do is click and drag on the grid. If I left click and drag, that'll give you a green highlight. Or you can also individually just check off and click on the boxes, and that will also select for that reservation. Once you have a green selected area, you can then right click, and that's going to give you a little menu of options to select. From here, all you can do is hit new reservation. This is going to give you just a pop-up of any of those required questions that you're collecting, that you're setting in your property settings. This is just to make sure that the unit that you are selecting can hold the RV maybe that you are making a reservation for. So I'm just going to fill this out really quick and create. And then you'll notice that it will throw you back into a familiar screen. However, as you can see, your unit will already be in your cart based off of your grid selection. So the whole left side here can be ignored. It's just now that unit is in your cart from your grid selection. All you need to do from here is add that main guest to the reservation, again, whether it be a new guest or a returning guest. And again, you'll select the guest. And if you want to add any add-ons, etc., send a confirmation email if you wish, then create the reservation. And that'll then, again, throw you into the same spot from here. If you want to take your payments, if you want to send your emails, if you want to, do any of that, this is where you can do it from. We go back to the grid. Just a few reservation, management things also you can do from the grid. The first being moving an entire reservation from, one unit or dates to another. If you do want to move an entire reservation, Firefly does let you just drag and drop. So again, this reservation that I just made, say I now need to move them to a different site, I can just click, and while I'm holding down my click, I can now drag. As you can see, that reservation now will be kind of highlighted in a dark gray little box, and now I can move it to wherever I want on my grid. Say I just want to move them down, a few units to unit 12, I can do that and change them. One thing that we'll point out here that will be kind of a common theme throughout any of these reservation changes that you are doing is going to be the ability to recalculate your charges based on that unit change, whether it be changing the actual unit or updating the reservation dates, which we'll look at. Firefly will let you automatically recalculate those charges based on any of your new rates. So maybe you're upgrading this person from a standard to a deluxe site, and you want to have them pay for that upgrade. You can move them, hit recalculate charges based on new units rates, save and view charges, or just save. If you hit save and view charges, it's going to let you then go ahead and take payment for that balance that might be due now for that site upgrade. Or maybe you move them and you don't want to charge them extra. Maybe you're just giving them that upgrade because you're feeling nice and you don't want to charge them any extra. You can just leave that unchecked, and if you hit save here, it's not going to touch their rates. It's just going to make that change with their previous rates still in place that they paid. Some other things that you can do, if you hover over a reservation, you can see some just general details about it: arrival, departure, guest status, reservation source, etc. Or if you right click on the reservation, it's going to open up a little drop down of some action items that you can do. The first one that is probably the most useful here is just the ability to change the stay dates. So once I click that, it's going to give me a new date picker. From here, pretty much the same thing. Say I want to add, or this person now calls in again and says, oh, I want to add an extra night to my reservation now. I can come in here, add that extra night, and then more likely than not, I want to charge them for that extra night and make them pay an extra night of rates. So I can hit recalculate charges, and I can either again hit save and view charges or just save, and Firefly will work its magic and add an extra nightly rate to that person's charges for them to pay. At that point, again, you can just process their payment for them if they have a card on file, or they're able to make their payment themselves as well. A few other options in this drop-down list. Here again, just another place where you have the ability to move a reservation to a new unit if you don't want to drag and drop. Also, from the right click, you can lock or check somebody in. Checking somebody in. One thing to note about that, if they haven't signed their policies, it will give you a little pop-up letting you know that they haven't signed their policies. Again, this usually will only apply for reservations that you're making in-house because, as you all probably know from the online reservation portal, a guest isn't able to actually create their reservation until they sign their policy. So you should never really get this pop-up for reservations that were originally made online. Really only for those folks that you're making in-house reservations for that you still want to sign policies. As a reminder, they have to go into their guest portal to sign those policies. Again, from here, you can just continue the check-in, email the guest the policies, or cancel. So if we continue the check-in will just change, as you saw, that guest status from not checked in to checked in. Alrighty. One other thing that you can do from the grid, and this will kind of transition us into our next topic here, is just some more miscellaneous functions within Firefly. One other thing you can do from the grid, you may have seen it, if I highlight again, like I'm going to make a reservation, and I right click again, you'll notice that you would have another option here just to add a block. This is great for just adding a one-off block. Maybe, uh-oh, this site, has the water burst and you need to now close it off, you can come in, do a quick block, select a reason, closed, repair, any reason, add a note, save it, and that'll block off the site from being, reservable. So again, this is a good way to do those one-off blocks. You can also remove a block from the grid if you just right click and you'll say the site does end up getting repaired quicker than you thought. You can then just come in, right click on the block from here and hit remove block, and that'll let you remove the block to open up that site again for where that block originally was. And just a couple other things to note on the grid. If you click on your little date picker here, this will let you extend or shorten the dates that you can view on the grid. Maybe you only want to see, this current month. You can select this month, and that'll then, change the grid to just this month. Maybe you want to see the next 2 months. You can, come into your own selection here of the next of 2 months, and you can save that, and then that'll let you scroll through 2 months worth of the grid. And again, you can really have as much time as you want showing. You can reset the grid back to default by hitting reset dates here. You can search up a name in here, and you can add, you can filter by a few different items here on the grid as well. Alrighty, so the next thing we'll look at also relates to blocks. This is something a lot of parks like because it's not necessarily in Astra. Firefly does allow you to do group blocks, meaning if you need to block off maybe your whole park at one time because it's closed for a certain period of time, or maybe you need to block off a group of units that are all closed or under repair at a certain time. Firefly lets you do that easily by going into your property dropdown, coming into blocked unit groups, and you can create a new blocked unit group, and this will let you, set the active period, select any or all the units that you want to add to that block at one time, and then once you hit save, that'll then add that block. So maybe, this first weekend of November, I need to block off, all of these sites because they're going to be, closed, and I can save that. Bad example because my grid's messy, but if you have either a reservation or another block already on a site that you're trying to add a block unit group to, as you can see, it pulls up an error and tells you why you can't make that block. So we're not going to try that again. So the next thing quickly that I'll point out is going to be under your guest tab. Under here, if you click email guests, this is where you can then utilize Firefly's mass emailing function. Firefly will allow you to send emails in mass to any people that had in the past an active reservation, currently have an active reservation, or at some point in the future have an active reservation. So for example, by default, when you click email guests, it's going to list out all the people, that have an active reservation, like, today, or, as part of their reservation is today. And so they're, actively in your park. I can select all if I want to, send everybody an email. Again, I can load a template. Maybe sending out an email that I usually send out once a week to people. I can just template it, choose it from a template. Or, if something happens, maybe you're sending a storm warning to your park, and you can send an email, blast it their way, let them know a storm's coming and whatnot. You can also utilize placeholders, and if you do want to individually check off or check some guests as well, you can just do that. Alrighty, so that's some basic more guests and reservation related things. In our last few minutes here before we do questions, we'll just review your point of sale really quick. The register is pretty simple. It gets the job done. It lets you take transactions. So again, the few different ways you can get to the register from your dashboard. You have a POS register, a button here. You have a POS register here. And you have a under your point of sale drop down here, you have a POS register button here. So if we go ahead and click this, this is then going to bring up your register. One thing to note, you can add favorites to a favorites bar here by going into your items. And if you click in on any item and scroll down, you're going to have the option to add that item to the POS register favorites. When you do that, if we go back to the register, those items will be listed here on the left. So that's good for items that maybe don't have UPCs that you can't scan, or just your most frequently, bought items. So you can easily just come in here to the left-hand menu, click on it, any amount of items, and it's going to add those items to your transaction. Or again, you can utilize any scanner that's connected to your computer if your items have UPCs. Or if you want a more button-like system, what you can do is hit this little magnifying glass here. It's going to then bring up some buttons based off your categories that you have set up. And then you can just click on your category, and it's then going to give you a list of your items that you have under that category. If you want to manipulate an item that's already in your transaction list, such as change the price or add more quantity, what you can do is if you just click on that item in the transaction list, it's going to open up a spot where you can add more quantity without having to click on this 5 different times. You can just come in here, add it once, click on this, come in and make this 5, check it off, and that will then update the price and update your transaction receipt here. From here, once you're ready to finish the transaction, there's a few different ways that you can add payment in Firefly from the register. The first is just straight up adding a payment. If you just want to collect payment right there, right then. If they're handing you cash, you can choose cash. Type in the cash received. It will give maybe they give you 50 bucks. It'll give you the change that's due, and it'll give you the amount, and then you can save that. If you're collecting credit debit card, you have the ability to do that as well. You can key in the card if you don't have a terminal. If you have a swiper or terminal that you're utilizing, you can also utilize that from this spot as well. Or and the most kind of, I would say, frequently used is just adding this transaction as as a charge to somebody's reservation. If you just want to start a tab on somebody's reservation and things like that. To do that, you will come over here to other options and you will hit charge to a reservation. From here, you'll get the ability to either search a guest name or a unit number, or you can, if you do choose, you can scroll through the list. But if I want to, if somebody's kid maybe comes up and is buying some candy, and they say, "Oh, I'm in site 21," you can just do that, or their parent's last name. Some come in here, select then, and then select. Once you do that, it's going to complete this transaction, complete it, and meaning it's just going to add it on to that reservation. As you can see here, now it's charged to a reservation. This unit number and this guest. So I can easily see that charge under the reservation straight from here. If I just come in, this little site here is actually a clickable button. So if I click on this, that's going to open up that reservation. And as you can see here, now that will show that charged POS transaction right here. From here, if say now they're at their end of their stay and they have a whole list of, charged POS transactions here that you now want to pay, you can easily come up here to options and you can hit pay all using payment method on file, hit save, and that'll just pay all those outstanding POS transactions at once for you all. And if you do choose, one other thing to note, if you do add an item here, maybe sometimes you sell just a day pass or something like that you want to keep record of on somebody's guest profile. Firefly also just lets you charge a transaction straight to a guest profile, not necessarily a reservation. So if somebody doesn't have a reservation, but they're still buying something and you want to keep track of that under their guest profile, you can either create them a new guest profile and add this transaction to their profile, or you can add it to an existing guest profile. You can also you'll get a receipt from if you do take a transaction through the register here, you can print a receipt as well. And then lastly is your end of day procedure. This will be mentioned, I don't know, I forget if it's tomorrow or Friday, but in one of the next sessions is going to be your accounting and end of day procedure. Again, that will relate to your reports here. Adrian will cover more of your charges and payments reports, as well as your accounting end of day will be covered at that point too. But that's more likely not how you end your day. So that kind of wraps up from beginning to end. How you can start your day, and then how you might wrap up your day with the end of day reporting and accounting, which again will be more in-depthly covered by Adrian tomorrow or Friday.
That's awesome. I don't want to cut you off. You were on a roll.
No, I'm all good. I want some questions
Okay.
now.
Perfect. We do have a couple, and then feel free to add more as they come to mind. The first question: if a guest wants to split payments, how do we go about that?
Um, let's see. If a guest wants to split payments, how do we, I assume it's like if a guest wants to use like half of it for their card and half of it for their, half of it in cash. You can do that. If we go back to a reservation that hasn't have paid. So, for example, if I'm, going to pay this here, I can come in, and another way to add a payment is by clicking these little dots here and clicking add payment. You will have to take it as two separate, payment procedures. But, if I want to take $75 of this now as credit debit card, I can do that. And then I can save that. And then maybe they give you the rest in cash. I can come in here and add a payment again. And but at this point, it'll automatically, have the remainder in here. I can collect payment again, and maybe they're just paying you with the rest in cash. I'll hit cash, come in and hit save, and that'll record, both of those different payments, with those different methods that you took, on that charge.
Awesome. Does the same thing apply? Can they split the payment if it's between two credit cards?
So you, in theory, can. Firefly soon I think, will allow you to have multiple credit cards on file. So you could probably charge, again, that's not a function in yet, so I don't know exactly how it's going to work, but you could probably charge, a transaction to each credit card. If you did at this point want to charge two different credit cards, you'd have to add the first credit card by adding the payment method, take that payment, and then go in and add a new payment method, then take that payment again. But like I said, the functionality to be able to add two credit cards on file should be coming y'all's way soon.
Awesome. Thank you. Another question we have: on the reservation grid next to the sites, there are a few letters and symbols. Can you go over what those mean?
Yeah. Let me zoom in here. Whoa. All right. So if we look here, we'll look at all these here. So an A here next to here just means that all types of reservations are accepted, meaning short-term, long-term. You're able to make an ongoing or a standard reservation. The O means you're just allowing ongoing reservations. So, these sites might be dedicated to your semi-permanent, seasonal, more permanent guests that you are making reservations for. So as you can see, an ongoing reservation is a reservation that doesn't have an end date, and it will be, highlighted green in the grid. You can dedicate certain sites that can only accept ongoing reservations. And a site labeled with an S means it only can accept standard reservations, meaning, this reservation, if a reservation was made on this site, it has to be a reservation with a beginning and end date on it, usually used for your, shorter monthly stays or your short-term daily weekly stays. So if you only wanted to have certain sites that maybe were short-term, you could dedicate them as standard sites as well. And the last one is this little I with a little slash through it. This means that this unit is hidden from the online reservation portal. So again, because Firefly's units are uniquely customizable, you can set aside certain sites that are only bookable, on your end and in-house, and they're hidden from the online portal. So if you only want a certain amount of sites that are bookable online, you can do that.
Awesome. And then similar question, the different colors. Can you
Yeah.
talk about what the different colors on the grid mean?
Yep. So as mentioned, green here means it's an ongoing reservation. It will go on forever until you end it. Blue just means it's a standard reservation. And if the name is highlighted in red, that means they have an overdue payment that they owe something that's past their due date. This little money symbol means that they have a payment method on file. There's another little icon. And then the other icon that you may or may not see at any point on the grid, if I lock this site, for example, a reservation with a little lock here means that if you do, offer a lock fee or you just lock a site, this will then, let you know that this site is locked. to that unit.
Awesome, thank you. Back to the credit card payment being split. If a card can only clear for a certain amount entered, is a partial payment made?
Um, no. So I mean, if you're using a card that only has a certain balance on it, and you try to pay in full, and they only can, if there's only enough money to do, half of it, it will probably fail the card. I don't think it will automatically just take half of it, but usually if an error like that happens, Firefly will let you know that the error is for insufficient funds, so you can easily track that.
Awesome. More grid questions. Can you customize the color of the grid?
Not currently. I know that's something that's been tossed around for our dev team to take a look at. I'm not sure where it's on their list at this point, but it's definitely noted for an update to give you all some more customizable grid colors.
Awesome. And then do colors change if the reservation is checked in or checked out?
The only thing that will change is where it says that guest status. It will go from not checked in to checked in.
Okay, awesome. And then is the history visible on the grid if you need to go back to a certain date to look at it? So I think like the retroactive calendar,
Oh yeah,
if I'm
100%.
understanding.
That's just like we looked at your date picker here. You can go back as far as you want. So, if I need to go into March and take a look at March, you know, every reservation, every reservation is always stored in Firefly for you. Nothing's ever erased. Your data is always in there. So past history, will always be there.
Perfect. Angel, if I misunderstood, and same with Casa Grande, if I misunderstood any of those, as well as Ken, please let me know and we will clarify. Deborah, I see your hand raised. Let me go ahead and you should be able to unmute now.
Thank you.
Mhm.
We have on Astro, we have a park designation so that when people come in to dump, we don't have to register them as a person. We can just put it in park and it records the payment. Is there something like that in Firefly, or how do we do people that we don't want to register to take money or whatever?
Yeah. So for people that you don't, if you just have items that you're selling to people that don't have reservations, and you don't want to also, associate it to any guest, you just want to take payment, that's where you can utilize the POS register. So if you make that dump fee a POS item, you can add it to your favorites bar here. When you select that item or fee from the from your list or wherever you add it to, you can just come in and directly add payment. So again, if someone's just coming in and they want to dump, you can come to the POS register, create that transaction, simply just hit add payment. If they pay you cash, record it as cash. You can run their card, anything like that. So that's how you would take, just a one-off payment of somebody that doesn't have a reservation, or you don't want to create a guest profile for.
How does it show up on reporting?
Yeah, so depends on how you report. If you utilize the accounting tool, if you have a separate GL account for that fee, that'll show up as a reported line of revenue. As far as your reporting, yeah, it's going to show up as a normal payment. So if you come to reports, when you run the payments report, it'll show up as a POS charge, and it'll give you the POS item and things like that. Under your payments, you can also run more detailed POS transactions sold. So maybe you want to for POS payments here, POS items sold, if you want to strictly get a list of all the dump fees and the total of your dump fees that you sold for a month, you can come into the POS items sold or payments and just report on that single item that you might want to get a report on.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I'll go ahead and start wrapping us up since we are at the end of the hour. And then if you have more questions, feel free to send them in the chat, respond back to the emails that you have for me. I think I was looking at the list again today. Every single one of you has had emails from me this week because you've all attended previous sessions, which is awesome. So let me go ahead. I'm going to take over sharing the screen just for our visual friends. So what's next? I'm going to sound like a broken record this week, but meeting with your migration manager. Our goal is to help you have all your questions answered. We also need to get a go live date scheduled if you don't already have that. Our team's calendar, we were just talking about this on a meeting before. that last week in November is like almost completely full. So we need to get you guys going live the week before, so that way you don't lose access before you're ready to be on your new system. For the most part, everyone on here is getting ready to move to Firefly. So love to get that scheduled earlier and sooner rather than later. Best ways to do that, if you're already in email conversation with me or your migration manager, respond back to that. Let's get a date set. And then if not, you can respond back to the email I'll send you after this call, and we can get that scheduled. If you haven't signed into Firefly at all yet, we really want to get you in Firefly so you can start becoming more familiar, because more questions are going to come up as you're in the product using it. And so that's just the nature of all of us learning technology. I know change is hard. And so like we have tons of calendar slots for trainings. We have knowledge base articles. We have recordings from last Smore Success and this Smore Success to help get you and your team ready to go. And then tomorrow we have learning the language of Firefly with Adrienne. So she knows Astra the best out of all of us. And so she's going to talk through like, this is what it was in Astra, this is what it is in Firefly, because we know that was good feedback we got last time we did Smore Success, was like, it just feels like it's learning a new language. We hear you, we completely understand. So we actually have tomorrow's session dedicated towards, let's like translate, you know, old to new, what's happening in Firefly. And then you can ask any good questions there as well. So I'll be sending you guys an email following up, and then hopefully we'll see you guys tomorrow. I didn't see any other questions come through. So hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for coming, and look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. And thanks,
everyone.
Nicolas.